We are dealing with a generation of kids that are raising themselves. We really are. It's bad. Our society is awful. It's anything goes. What are we going to do about it? Read you something that I came up with. The pursuit of a just society is one of the most fundamental concepts in Judaism. Note there are two things important about the statement in Deuteronomy. Justice, justice, thou shalt pursue. First, the word justice is repeated. This is very infrequent occurrence in Scripture. When words are repeated, it's generally to add emphasis. Second, we are told to pursue justice. Hence, we are not told to wait for the right opportunity, for the right time and the right place, but we are to pursue, or as in the Hebrew writer says, to run after the opportunities to practice justice. And by the way, there is no justice. If you're thinking of talking about social justice, there is no justice without God's justice. Psalm 82 says this, how long will you defend the unjust and show partiality to the wicked? Defend the weak and the fatherless. Uphold the cause of the poor and the oppressed. Rescue the weak and the needy. Deliver them from the hand of the wicked. That was God's call to God's people. Psalm 146 says this, the Lord protects and preserves the strangers and the temporary residents. He upholds the fatherless and the widow and sets them upright. But the way of the wicked he makes crooked. Jeremiah 22:3 says, thus saith the Lord, execute justice and righteousness and deliver out of the hands of the oppressor him who has been robbed. Do no wrong and do no violence to the stranger or the temporary resident, the fatherless or the widow, nor shed innocent blood in this place. The biblical Hebrew word is yatam, for fatherless, and it actually means fatherless. Even so, if a child had a mother, he was considered an orphan if there was no father present. I was amazed to discover that the root verb from which the word yatam is derived means to be lonely. Loneliness goes with the territory of being fatherless. There's an inseparable tandem. You can be lonely without being fatherless, but you cannot be fatherless without being lonely, and it's a biblical truth. Young people, sitting down and eating with kids and hearing the kid say, this is the first meal I've had with an adult in 2 weeks. Christian parents are just as guilty of abandoning their kids as folks around the general population. We have been driven as a society where everybody has to work. Mom staying home and being a mom isn't happening today. Why? Because we're driven economically to work 2 jobs, and sometimes 2 and 3 jobs for each parent because of the way our economic situation is. The Lord gave us serious instruction in His Word regarding the treatment of those children who were fatherless. And by the way, we're not talking about orphan kids. We're talking about kids who are single mom parents. We're talking about kids who both parents are working so many hours that between 3 and 7 p.m., you know who's spending more time with their kids than anybody else? In the internet, TV, music world, teachers. Your school teachers are seeing your kids and having more of an investment in them than you are, more than likely. It says this in Scripture. Here's the case. He commands the fatherless not to be affected in Exodus 22:22. He expects justice to be executed on behalf of the fatherless, Deuteronomy 10:18. He promised blessing on the work of those hands, and the context was agricultural, who was the corner of the fields for the fatherless and widows to glean. In another instance, the prosperity in life, not necessarily financially, is promised if the cause of the fatherless is pleaded in Jeremiah 5:28. Another one, the fatherless were to be included in the celebration of the Jewish feast of the weeks, Shavuot. The feast commemorates the giving of the law on Mount Sinai and the new covenant. The Holy Spirit was given to the Jewish believers that were gathered there for prayer and fasting. It implied that the fatherless children should not be neglected spiritually. They must be taught scriptures and become part of the body of believers, all of whom share in the Holy Spirit. And this was a very specific command. The fatherless, here's another one. The fatherless were to be included in the distribution of the tithe in Deuteronomy 26:12. Based on this principle, do we as a church give a portion of our resources to those in need? We do, by the way. Here's another one. Cursed is everyone who distorts justice to the fatherless. Deuteronomy 27:19. He sees everything that goes on. People sometimes take advantage of the fatherless children because they have no strong dad to defend them. Be careful if you are in a decision-making position, say a sports coach, or giving preference to those whose dad you're serving as. In ancient Israel, the fatherless, the widows, and the aliens were mistreated and had violence done to them, and innocent blood was shed. Desolation would come to the house of anyone sitting on David's throne, the king of Judah, leading to the accountability to the care and the orphans. What was the first major decision that the early church did? Think about it for a second. What did God convict the elders of right out from the get-go? The widows and orphans weren't properly being cared for, and that's why they created deacons. Deacons are servants. They're not guys who chain smoke and who are angry sitting in the back of the room. They're not guys who are sitting on the board determining how to spend money. They're guys who are out there giving the gospel, giving life, serving people. Zechariah declared, "Thus, as the Lord of hosts said, dispense true justice, practice kindness and compassion to each to his brother, and do not oppress the widow or the orphan, the fatherless, the stranger or the poor, that does not devise evil in their hearts against one another." But they refused to pay attention and turned a stubborn shoulder and stopped turning their ears from hearing. They made their hearts like flint so they could not hear the law and the words of the Lord of hosts, and sent his spirit through the former prophets. Therefore great wrath came from the Lord of hosts. And just as he called that they would not listen, so he called that I would not listen, said the Lord of hosts. This is Zechariah 7:19-13. It's clear there are consequences when the people of God ignore God's plan. So what are we to do with this? I'm going to give you 3 quick points. Not all fathers' functions are economic. There are 3 things, and I want to look at the word provision, because we have to start with, as a congregation, as the people of God, to provide for kids, to provide for teens, to provide for young adults who don't have parents. Do you know, one of the things that God led us as a board of elders and church folks when we were building our Constitution, we looked at Mark Dever's church down Capitol Hill Baptist. He had a really unique constitution where he had student memberships. And I talked to Mark about it, and it was really one of his staffers. And they gave us a copy of their constitution. It was really cool because being on Capitol Hill, he had a very transient church, just like we have a transient church. People come, they stay in the area 3.5 years, they move. It's just how it is here. They come to university, they stay 3-4 years, they move. You know, it's a very, very Washington, D.C., very similar thing. And he said, you want to take away the barriers of membership for young people because they need a home away from home. Our Constitution is the same way. If you want to have a student membership, or we call it an associate membership, you can have all the rights and privileges of being a member. You can serve, you can lead, you can be involved. You just can't vote, you can't serve in an office. But you can have all the privileges of membership. You can have a home away from home without giving up mommy's church back home. That's a cool thing. Do you know we have more non-Baptist students becoming a part of our church because of that? Because we're providing the extended family that young people need during their development years. And I think that's so radically cool. So, you know, listen, I want you to hear this, that as a church, we are really on the cutting edge of providing But I wanted to take Father's Day to really just to drive home the point that we aren't done yet. We got to do more. And you're saying, look how small we are. Yeah, we're small. We fed 400 people last month. Okay? We're a mouse that roars. Praise God. We are. God is doing blue, cool stuff. Do you know Home Depot has a national policy of not partnering with churches? Do you know that? Do you know that we got a grant from Home Depot and the managers from 6 stores came out and built our garden? You want to talk about God giving us favor? God gave us favor. Praise God. I'm grateful. These guys are awesome. Awesome. We are called to provide. What does it mean? A buffer. The first one is provision of food and shelter. Provide. To furnish, supply food, shelter for a family. The primary way a father provides for his family is supplying his family with what they need to live. The immediate interpretation is working for a living. That's the defining part of it, but there's more. It's not just about bringing home a paycheck and collapsing on the couch at the end of the day. There are ways to provide basic needs to living. Providing food for cooking. Providing food can look like shopping. Providing shelter can look like building. Providing shelter can look like maintaining. The provision is relegated to a successful career. The father's identity comes from his work. This is why so many men go through an identity crisis when they lose their job. As a church, during that temporary time when people are struggling, we should be able to help them, and we are. The second provision is opportunity. To make available, to afford a room that provides ample sunlight like French windows. I like that. A good father will make available many opportunities as possible. This is a healthy and vital part of a child's inheritance.